ACryInShame, part of the long journey of Odyssey, bringing you back some more Factorio. And as you see here, I've gone ahead and upgraded some of these built setups, and they're going a lot faster, a lot smoother now. I'm just loving that part. But one of the main reasons I did this is so that we can set up our auto trash to kind of see what we're doing. So we don't want the yellow belts, we don't want the yellow underground belts, so they'll be auto trashed. We don't want the splitter pieces, so we get rid of those too. We don't want normal inserters. We can get rid of those. Long-handled. Well, we might want long-handled. We don't want the small electric poles anymore. We can get rid of those. I'm just going through this entire thing, just going, oh, what do I not need out of this? Active provider chests. I do not want them. Get them out of here. Robo ports. All the rest of the stuff here, I'll probably end up wanting for one reason or another. Here, yeah, they're good here. These are all just building pieces I'm probably going to be using here and there. I don't want to hold... Oh, stone maybe. Stone might be okay. I might be crafting things with stone. I don't want to ever hold any iron ore. Any copper ore. Don't want to be holding ore in my inventory at any given time. I don't want to hold raw wood. Don't need that. Same for normal wood, get rid of that too. Don't need to be holding wood for any reason. Plates and stuff, perfectly understandable. Sulfur, I don't need to hold. If I have sulfur, get rid of it. Barrels maybe. Copper cable. I might be crafting things with copper cable, but not necessarily at the time. Low density structure, okay. Iron gears, keep those in there. Keep that, keep that, keep that. I shouldn't be holding any science for any reason. There's no reason for me to be holding science. Get that out of here. No science. Ammo and stuff, this I'll be holding, you know, if I do have it for any reason, I will be holding it, you know, so this is all good. Vehicle machine guns. Not I'll ever hold a vehicle machine gun. But yeah, that's it. It's there. Auto trash slots all set up. Isn't that awesome? So now I don't worry about any of the crap I don't want, and then later on I can add in the red belts and stuff for the same reason. It's awesome. Actually, I don't need coal either. I don't need to be holding coal. I don't need a reason to hold coal. I mean, I don't like manually supplying things, so if I have to manually supply something, I'll just manually supply it. No big deal. Get rid of this stuff here. Temporarily. Because I might be crafting stuff at the time, which I do that, so I don't want to auto get rid of it. So that's cool. I can have it where, like, it, you know, gets rid of all the things I have here, and I can also have it set up to do an auto trash if I have too many of an item. So I can just be like, alright, let's do, you know, iron plates. I want to have, you know, oh, I want to have like 200 of them. So I can be like, I want 200 at a time. But if I have over 200, then get rid of them. Because I have this here, 200, right? So if I then grab these, it's like, oh, you have too many. Let me get that for you. And it takes it out. It's pretty awesome. So I might want to put a limit. Screw it. No limit. Get rid of it. I want to keep everything. Sorry, look at the wrong one. I'm like, why do I have all that? Okay. I want to keep all the fast. Keep the iron. Oh, this is the extra stuff. Keep the electric mining drills. Keep the concrete. Everything else can stay. Alright, oh, I just saw something I don't want. Auto trash. Well, I guess it might be a case of where I might have it for a reason. These, burner miner drills. I don't need them, so get that out of here too. I probably don't need to auto slot that though. It's only these two. I'm probably not ever going to have any more, so just get those out of here. Thank you. Alright, so that's cool. Got the auto trashes, all the trashing set up. We got these guys going. And we got 14 of them created already. Come down here, we got 4. Still only got 4. Not doing too much of the solar panel setup, are we? No electric circuits. It's very impressive with electric circuits going on here, huh? That's the advanced circuits. Electric circuits. Here. What's going on, buddy? What's your Should malfunction. Are you having iron issues? No, we're having copper issues. Not being crafted fast enough? No, it looks like it's being crafted fast enough. So then what do we... Why is this not... Is stack... it's pulling both on this side rather than pulling one each. That's an issue. Yeah, I didn't think about it when this gets the stack inserter set. When it's actually able to pull more than one at a time. Didn't think about that setup. That's annoying. Might have to redo this setup then, because it's no longer even. It's pulling too many. This one's running fine, but this one's not running nearly as quickly because of that. And that's no good. We don't want that. I'll have to redo this now because it's not going to work in this setup. Well, I think, yeah, it's getting to a point where I'm thinking really hard, like maybe I should just redo the factory, like I've been talking about for episodes on end. But like I said, if I do redo the factory, it's going to be a case of doing it when basically doing the breakdown for everything when I'm not off screen. Let's get rid of all of that so we have plenty of room. Get rid of all that. Walk around a lot better. Can't place anything down there. Interesting. Landfill complete. That's a little weird. Is that where the ore used to be? Is that what that is? Probably. You can still build there, right? Yeah. Can I still put concrete down there? That's kind of the more important question. Yeah, doesn't seem like there's any issue. I can place concrete down, no problem. Just can't do landfill because of the way it's acting a little weird. I'll put this all back. I'm good. I used like all of the landfill to get rid of that small little pond, lake, whatever you want to call it. I think it's a pond. It was relatively small in size. Consider like this is kind of a lake. You know, these are lakes. These are, I mean, they're smaller lakes. But that little section I had there is more like a pond than it was a lake. Alright, so that's good. We're doing good. It's kind of a case of, we're kind of at that point where breaking down and rebuilding is not really a bad idea. We got to the point of, a lot of auto crafting's ready. We got the robots auto crafting. I think we can really redo this to a point of, a full-on cool factory. So I think that's what we're going to do. I don't feel like doing it. I'm not going to do it this episode. Like I said, I want to do it in between episodes. So for this episode, we got to find something to do. So what are we going to do this episode? That is the question. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause the recording for a minute, and I'll be right back. And we'll figure out what we're going to do. Alright? Just give me a minute. Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm going to do a quick narration over this video. I sped up the video to 300%. The whole video is about 2 hours long. So this is two parts of what we're going to work with. The first thing is, as you can see me working with here, we're going to concrete the entire base. I know it's a bit of a pollution issue, but it makes up with the speed, and it actually just looks much nicer in the case of this is our base, we're going to be using it. And the biggest issue is the pollution. Well, we're at a point where we can kind of deal with the pollution. We can fight off the biters. We're not worried about them. So we're just going to spend our time, we're going to work through the base, and we're just going to, make everything look nice. Well, we're much further ahead than the biters are, so even if they do evolve and become stronger, we are strong enough at this point in the game that we can fight them. So after I do a bit of concreting, I go ahead and work my way up north to the oil rig up here. And the first thing I really think about is I need to store the current liquids we have, because we need to move them out of the way so we can move everything around and set up the way I actually want it to set up, so it actually looks nice and works well. So I'm going to go ahead and working on what I need to kind of figure out on our setup. And I figured out there's a bit of a stone issue because it's getting pulled immediately. So I did fix that real quick. And then I'm using the deconstructor so I can get the robots to come pick all this stuff up, get out of my way. I want to get all the oil in these little three storage containers here. Change around some of the power setups. And I'm figuring out how best to pull all these liquids together, because I don't want any of them to connect. As you can see, there's a bit of auto-saving lag and stuff going on. That's one of the reasons why I sped up this video rather than letting it play through. I mean, it's a really long video, first off. And second off, it's a case of there's a lot of like lag spikes happening while I'm doing this. My later recordings seem to have been fixed and not having these issues, but there's a lot of like lag spikes happening throughout this. So it's rather annoying, like we had in earlier videos. I haven't quite figured out as to what was causing it in the long run, but it seems that when I changed down a few of the settings, it didn't really seem to affect the quality of the videos, but then it stopped having that issue. So I went ahead and ran some lines over here, rebuilt the wall on the side to kind of give us more room to work with. It's a lot of deconstructing and a lot of moving around items. I did a lot of deconstructing with the robots themselves. One for the the points on the deconstruction by robots, and also just the general setup and idea of what we're doing. I removed the barrels down here for the oil so that they'll input and output accordingly. So I have the one input there. These two will combine to an output. So I went ahead and showed it just like that, as you see. There we go. We have an output and input for the oil. Then I set up a 3x3, which is a total of 9 tanks here. That'll store all the oil. It's far excessive than what we actually need for it, but it'll work perfectly fine for what we're working with. Go ahead and put a pump to make sure that's all going to input in rather than trying to even itself out, as fluids will actually even themselves as much as possible between tanks and pipes. So you want to make sure you have the pump to actually push it towards a particular direction. It wasn't going fast enough, so I would add another pump in the end there. There we go, that's all hooked up. Now I wanted to go ahead and do the next thing, was the petroleum gas. I wanted to get that out of the way. I wanted to stop this from creating more fluids that I'll have to continue working with. So a lot of things I was trying to work with, trying to get it all together. I was really having a hard time trying to figure out how to go about this without destroying, with destroying as little as possible as far as the liquids themselves are concerned, because oil is a bit of a commodity and you don't really want to waste any of the materials you make from it. So there was a bit of a waste in the piping themselves, so I couldn't get every little drop out of the piping. But compared to what I could have been wasting, it's far less. It came to a point where I was happy with getting rid of some of it and not so happy with getting rid of other parts of it. Sorry. I think the autosave may have been one of the issues I was having with the jumping, like the video jumping like that. So I need to probably change the autosaving to far less often. I think it's set to 10 minutes, which is far too often in a video like this. Alright, so that should be all set up. The oil's all set and good. Go ahead and take some of this pieces apart. Now we're just moving the petroleum up further. We're not really, getting it completely out of the way, but far enough out of the way where I can build everything else I want to build. Now we have the heavy oil and the light oil, and then we have, I think I moved, no, it doesn't look like I moved the light oil. No, it's all being processed already, so I think I just picked it up. Yeah, I just picked it up. We have the heavy oil there, and we have the let's go back a little bit. So at this point we have the, I believe it's light oil there. I can't tell where it's light or heavy because I'm colorblind. It's a bit of an issue. But I think it's heavy oil. And then we have the lubricant. I couldn't remember the name. The lubricant's there as well. So those are the two last fluids I need to work with and get those out of the way. So I'm working with some of the provider chests and whatnot to get things out of the way, get the robots doing what they need to do. Because right now, only the construction robots are working with me at this point. I'm going to get the logistics robots to help out as well. So with the active provider chests, I can actually put them down and have the logistics robots come and grab everything out of it. It's the one opportunity where the active provider chest is actually useful. So I did eventually find a good reason to use them. So as you can see now, all that flamer fuel is being pulled and all that solid fuel is being pulled as well. It's all being put down in the storage chest, but it's getting filled up, so I had to put down some more storage chests. You can see there as I was running, there's a lot of jumping there. So that's the jumpiness I was talking about with the video. A lot of it in this particular video, despite how long it was. So at this point I'm putting down our setup. As you can see, there's 3 different lengths of pipe there. So the oil and water will go in, and then the 3 different lengths of pipe will determine where I'm setting up for everything else. With underground piping, I can hook them all up together so that the 3 different products, the heavy, the light, and the petroleum oil liquids, will be set up correctly without combining with each other. I want to do some underground piping in this area as well, so I can easily walk between everything. You'll see throughout the build that I do a lot of underground piping to try to get around and be able to have areas where I can easily get around. See, cases like this where I put lines of concrete for easy movement, I try to make paths between everything that I could easily walk through. See right there, I couldn't walk there, so I went ahead and created just a small little smidge of a path, just enough so I can get through. It just makes traveling around the base a lot easier. I think at this point, if I remember correctly, I decided that it's best to just ignore that particular spot there in the oil. It wasn't giving me much oil anyway, and even if I went ahead and did like speed modules and everything to it, it still wouldn't be a whole lot of oil coming out of it. And we'll find better spots later down the line. So I went ahead and just started ignoring that location. Started working with petroleum oil first, or petroleum fluid first. Getting our setup down here, trying to figure out how I want to go about the setup. I redo the setup several times before I really decide this is how I want it. And you can see in this video. Once again, also keeping to the path, making sure I have a path to walk through. I decided that a 4-tile path was big enough for me to get through without hitting anything at any given time. And I was testing out the new kind of concrete that was there. I liked the way it looked. The whole caution tape concrete, basically. Caution concrete. It looks really cool underneath all the buildings and stuff. So that's what I started working with. My major plan at this point was to put the caution concrete under all the buildings that we work with. This is me just creating basically a border so I understand as to where everything is and where I want everything to sit. At this point, I'm working with the flamer fuel, getting that all set up. I need the iron to sit there, and then we're going to have heavy and light both converge into this section here. I was trying to set up an auto way of getting this going where any extra fuel would end up back up in this area, but then I decided that it wasn't really helping me any working with that setup, so I decided to just scrap that idea. This is my whole redoing what's already been done kind of thing, because I realized something. I hadn't put any tanks set up for the 3 products. I wanted to make a tank setup for all the 3 products. So I wanted the heavy, the light, and the petroleum gas to have their own tank setup. So I went ahead and started working pretty much from square one, getting this set up. And you can see that in all of this. I was trying to decide how I wanted to go about the whole setup, like where I wanted the lines to be. And I figured that having a 3x2 setup that could possibly expand if need be was the best way to go. This is kind of an off bit where I needed to put it right on top of where it currently was sitting in order for it to sit correctly. And there we go. I had to see that set up to get that going. Now, the lubricant is still sitting there, and that's going to be a bit more difficult to work with. There we go. So now all 3 of them are all set up. Now I'm just going to hook them all up. Making sure the piping's all matched correctly. This is using the underground pipes this way that none of them mix up together. And then I wanted to cover everything in logistics robots, so I was trying to figure out the best spot to put it to, match the grid up. I was having trouble trying to figure out where I wanted to place it, where it's out of the way, still connected to everything. And then I ended up just not placing it right now and trying to figure out other things I can do. So I got it there just so it's close enough to work with me at this point, and then we'll figure out exactly where I want it later. I went ahead and set up the calls on the robots to make sure I can get the materials that I need to set this all up. And that was the limit I set. I set it as a 3x4 total. That was my final decision. At least I'm certain it was my final decision. Yeah, it was a maximum decision. I set it where that's the maximum it will be set up, which is plenty and should never actually max out that. Like, even if I had all those tanks there, it should never ever become close to that. If it happens to, we have the materials needed for that. So basically they have it set up as the oil is pulled and tanked. Then it's processed, and we can expand that process if need be. Then it's the process, the three parts that are being processed are then stored. Then we're going to have the downgrade or the cracking of those materials down as need be. Now here's the cool part that I'm setting up, that I like really enjoyed this part of it. I am setting up an automated system that after a certain amount of a liquid is at a certain point, so for instance if we're at like 500 petroleum left, the system will kick on and start cracking the materials down to petroleum. The same thing for the light oil. It'll start cracking heavy oil into light oil if we're running low on light oil. Automatically. I don't have to worry about it at all. I just have to go ahead and do it. That's it. It'll crack, it'll just turn on and work by itself by using the pumps to only activate at a certain amount. I believe I set it to 1,000 on each. So I can go in here, that's the check for just the new thing I've set up. So you see there, I set it so that when light oil is at 1,000, it'll turn on, and then it'll process from there. I was checking on different signals and how I could set it up, because I know there's a way that I can set up the value as a variable using this system. So if I ever decided that I wanted a different value to base it on, I could just change that value through the system rather than going to that particular pump and setting it up. But it ended up being just not worth the effort to set it up. There's a lot of things you can do in this. A lot of like background programming to do automation to the way that you would like it rather than having to maintain those individual things. And that's what I was trying to do in this, is just getting it so that as much little maintenance on my part. Then of course I had to run the water for the cracking, and I spaced it out so that 2 sets of chemical factories could work next side by side. So I think I can actually set up a total of 4 possible if need be. I was just kind of spacing it out for future in case I need the more cracking setups. Here we go with a little bit more lag going on here. They've got it all wired up. So they go ahead and wire everything so it's all connected and all together. This is the petroleum setup. I think I changed my value for petroleum to have a little lower. I think I decided to have it on 500 or even 1500. I forget what I put it on exactly. But I decided to have a different value for petroleum just because petroleum's used far more than... So I have put it for 1,000 originally, and I think I go back and change it later in this build. That's the gist of the cracking setup. You know, I repeat this across. Now there's only 2 sets of cracking because you got the heavy to light, then light to petroleum. There's nothing else you can do with petroleum. There's no cracking down petroleum down to something else in this. So I do need to worry about that lubricant, so I have to get the lubricant out of the way. I pushed it just past where it needed to be. We're going to move that petroleum over later down the line too. If you see, I'm lining up everything so that it's on where the caution setup is. See, there we go. I'm just moving that down. This is the cracking. So the output for it will go down into the light oil right there. So heavy oil will crack down to light oil by following that pipe that I just put there. And I was kind of creating a grid with the electric point setup. So all the electric poles are kind of in a grid. As you can see, I really do like my grid setups, and makes it very modular. And here's the petroleum setup. Ran out of materials. So go ahead and just grab some materials myself. Because the thing I was missing was the the electric engines, which require lubricant, and I'm at a point where I don't really have the lubricant running or the electric engines being crafted. So I had to go and kind of work with it a little bit myself and try to find out where those materials were sitting. Alright, so after I got the cracking set up, it's kind of a case of I needed more concrete to get the layout going. So I worked with that. I wanted to fill that little spot of water there that was in my way. Create the paths right here. I'm going to break down that just a little bit. Create a caution line so I knew where my lines were. See, I wanted to have it where... Oh, I made 6. Okay, so I did make it a little bigger than I originally anticipated. I made it so I can do a 2x6 setup. Sorry, 2x3 setup. I'm thinking 6. I mean, so that 6 can sit there, but it's a 2x3 setup. See, there you go. It all fits nicely in there. All nice and snug. Just in case I needed to have a large amount of cracking and we were like chewing through petroleum, like I had the setup to do it. Now this area here, since there isn't any cracking needed for the petroleum, I was setting this up as the solid fuel setup. So this basic setup is when we have an overabundance of a particular item, a particular liquid, we're actually going to start working to change it into solid fuel. So I have each of them set up. You know, I got the heavy, the light, and the petroleum set up. And we can set that all up so that it's all piped in and it'll pull out as solid fuel. I'm going to set it at a certain amount. I think I set it for 10,000. Once again, I'm not 100% sure. We'll see later in the video what I set it to. And then I want to make room after that for the actual products that are being created with these items. For instance, the heavy will turn into lubricant. So I'll finally get that lubricant pushed over. Once again, I want to have a row of 3 set up, just to give us like the extra room, just in case I wanted to make it big. So I was trying to make it all even and looking nice and that kind of stuff. Ended up being where I can put 3 of them next to each other, relatively close, with 1 space away, and then it keeps 1 space away from the caution concrete. And it just looks really nice. Gotta get some trees out of the way for this setup, but it all works out. This is me just trying to line things up, because the next thing is to store some of the lubricant liquid in these tanks for actual use. Because one of the steps we're going to do later on is the blue belts, and all the blue belt stuff requires the lubricant. So we need to make sure that we can store a bit of lubricant to actually get those setups going. This way we can split it off to 3 yet again. If not more, depending on how we want to go about it. We set up with the 3 engines right now. Later down the line, I'm going to set it up to have not just the engines, but the actual belt set up too. But right now, it's not really that important to have the blue stuff set up. This is where I'm like, alright, now that I have this all good and ready to go, I need to move things around, get things set up. It really was hard to figure out as to how I wanted to go about placing the robots and placing the robot ports. I decided to have it where everything's pumped in on this side, pushed out on the other side. Just a tiny little squeeze room there. It all seemed to look nice, set up nicely. It'll call in the items it needs to create everything. And it'll pull out what it doesn't need. So this ended up working out pretty nicely. So we're going to go ahead and get rid of those trees, get things set up. And then the next thing we're working on well, I gotta fix this down here as well. So I think that's the next thing we work on, is that getting the solid fuel set up. So the run down the side here to not get in the way of everything else that's being built. I'm going to hook that up so I can actually limit the amounts. So basically, when we have over, what is it? What did I put? I think I put 10,000? 50,000. I put 50,000. When we're over 50,000, that's when we'll start jumping in and just immediately changing it right over to solid fuel, which is great. Because we really, if we have that much fuel, that much heavy liquid working on, like heavy oil, then just change it over. It's way too much. We don't need that much. We always come down and change those numbers later, if need be. This is a bit of, I'm going to admit, this is a bit of like spaghetti piping to get everything to fit nicely into what's working on here. But it does turn out pretty nicely. It works out pretty well, so I can't really complain too much on it. I hooked up everything to the line so that everything's connected into the wiring network. So this way I can set my amounts. I had to go grab some copper to get that all set up. Made a quick path, continued the wiring, made everything else set up to 50,000 as well. Is petroleum higher, I think? Well, I think it's 100,000. I set up that one for petroleum because I actually want to have a lot of extra petroleum sitting around before I start switching that over into solid fuel, you know? So we'll get rid of that finally. Got all the lubricant over. I did lose a bit of lubricant from that, like pulling that stuff up, and didn't transfer all of it over. But it's lubricant. It's not the biggest deal, you know? It's not a big deal. So I had to move that over because I realized I'd placed it incorrectly. So I had to fix that. Move some piping around, whatnot. Got the grid wired up, so that's all set up. So everything was looking good at this point. Connect a few last pieces, and then we got that all good to go. So at this point, we're pretty close to being finished. All we need to do now is do the last final products. Now we're going back to what we were doing before. I believe we're jumping into flamer fuel right now. We're getting some caution set up here, and we're getting down flamer fuel. I'm pretty sure that's what we're working on right now. Flamer fuel, yep, flamer fuel. All right, so we're getting the flamer fuel. We need to bring the heavy down. We need to bring the light across to get our flamer fuel set up, including the iron we need to bring up into this as well. So I pull right from here in order to grab the light. So I do this in a kind of a convoluted way of like piping. This is what I'm talking about, like sketty piping that we've been working with. Like kind of just throwing it all together to make sure it works. It's a bit of a mess, but it works. And that's the biggest part, is making sure that everything works correctly. So I got the heavy brought down already. We're bringing the light across now. I want a little extra room so I can place down, I believe I was placing down a power there, is that correct? I'm not sure what I did the extra space for now. There we go. Now we have flamer fuel being crafted. Drop a chest down. Spend a few seconds to craft it. I didn't need a whole lot of space for this, so I put another like walking space here. It allows me to even still have 3 flamer fuel setups if I need it, but I'm probably not going to need it, to be honest. Alright, so this is me just kind of analyzing what we have set up already, kind of getting to the next steps. Everything's cracking, got the engine set up, thought about doing explosives. There's going to be a lot more auto-crafting from now on in the series than there were before. Probably more auto-crafting than I've done in any series, because I really do like the auto-crafting in this game. And I am probably going to do a series at one point that is just pure auto-crafting. Everything's going to be auto-crafted. I think it's the no craft run, like no handcrafting run, where they get a mod where it like allows you to have an auto crafter that runs off of burning. So you just have a throw some wood into it and then auto craft stuff for you. I think that would be cool. And then use the one achievement as a guideline of like I can set it up so it'll show me if I ever crafted anything at any given time, and if that ever hits even so much as 1, I've lost. I think I like that idea, actually. I might do that. Ideas, man. Ideas! So right now this is me, like I'm trying to wire things up or pipe things up so that it matches nicely and it's all together. It's a lot of simplicity stuff going on here. Well, it's kind of like my own personal grid that I'm trying to set up in my head. So it's kind of hard to explain. Even when I'm doing this video, like I'm explaining it terribly of what it is that I'm like trying to do here. But the long story short of what I'm trying to do here is that I want to set up in a grid. I want to have plenty of resources that I need. I don't want to have to worry about every little thing, you know? So I got this all going here. Got the water hooked up there. Got the petroleum coming through. Have the little finagling to make sure that the pipes don't connect. I was able to get this all set up. I only did the 2 for now because I don't need all of them all set up. There we go. So I got set up in the left and right again. So I follow down the track to make sure that it is the correct setup. And then I realized that it doesn't matter which side each of them are on because I split it up anyway. I split up with the filter inserters. So, no worries there. At that point, we are creating everything we need from our oil setup, and that is our new setup. We're all good to go. I went ahead and moved things around so that it's easier to call upon the stone, or the filter, the landfill, you know. I also noticed that there's an issue with the amount of stone coming through, so it's all being pulled in the moment. And then I was actually crafting the items, other items. So I start working with getting things set up around here, trying to really get rid of all that iron so I can take it apart and redo that whole setup as well. Well, that's it for now. This is ACryInShame signing out. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you liked everything. Tell me how you like this kind of setup where I'm narrating over the video of what's already being done rather than actually doing it during the video. Plus, I can do a lot more in a shorter time because I can record a whole hour and then cut it down to, you know, half an hour to 40 minutes rather than 45 minutes of me just playing the game through. So tell me what you think. Comment below. Like, subscribe. I appreciate it. This is ACryInShame, signing out.